Call with Dads, your podcast for unscripted conversations and honest opinions about what matter to dads. Join the call in this journey called fatherhood. Now here are your hosts to get things started. E.A. Maynard, the man of many words, and some of them could make sense.
Hi, I'm E.A. Maynard.
Along with Mr. Pancakes, who is working to bring back family traditions starting with breakfast.
This is Mr. Pancake, and this is Call with Dad.
Yeah. I'm like, don't do it like that. You're getting more on the floor than you are in your mouth.
Yeah.
So,
right, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into this. So, basically, let's let everyone know our views on foods, kids eating it, the pain in the necks they can be on trying to get them to eat stuff, what kind of foods, things like that. So, yeah, let's start off with you. You and I have kids about the same age. So,
yeah.
My son's 5, my daughter 1.5, almost 2-ish, somewhere around there. Your kid's around just under 5, I think it was.
Yeah, she's 4. She'll be 5 in December, so we got maybe 2 months.
Okay, so we can round up and say both are 5.
Right in that range, right?
Yeah.
Similar mannerisms.
Right.
Similar time frames.
Now, here's the one thing I am curious about, because I have a son and I have a daughter, and my daughter seems to be a whole lot less pickier than my son. My son will sit there and taste like a noodle, and if it has spaghetti sauce on it, he throws a fit one day, and the next day it's perfectly fine. Yeah. Where my daughter, I think, like we were talking, just takes food and smashes it in her face, and just whatever.
Like a horse.
Yeah, and then once she gets enough of that in her mouth, then she'll start saying no and shake her head and get out of her chair. So it's like night and day comparably trying to feed them.
Yeah.
But I don't know and that's one thing I'm sitting there going is this a boy thing? They're just that picky, or is it just the age thing? Because I swear I want to strangle my kids sometimes going, eat your food.
I mean, I would say more, to me, it sounds to me like an age thing. The reason I say that is my daughter is very similar, very, very picky. She didn't used to be, but my daughter does, she does waves. And I call them waves because they're usually about two months or so long, 1.5, 2 months long. And for about 2 months, she will be she'll eat like a cow. She'll just everything in sight. She'll eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She'll ask for seconds, she'll eat like crazy. And then 2 months later, you can't get her to eat a grape. She'll perfectly happy eating chocolate cake or cookies or whatever. She'll eat that all day. Try and get her to eat her regular dinner, forget it. Because she don't want nothing to do it. She won't eat breakfast. So it seems like it's been like a up and down kind of battle, and it seems like it goes along with her growth spurts.
That's about what I say. Sounds like growth spurts kind of thing there, because I know
every 2 to 3 months, up and down, up and down.
I was gonna say, because my son for a while was that way, and then he went from because my son's he's a big boy, not heavy set, but let's put it this way, in my family, I'm the midget of the family. At just a hair under 6 foot, I'm the midget. Yeah. So my son's most likely going to pick up the tall side of my family. Right. So he's wearing, what was it, at the beginning of summer, he was comfortably in size 5, which kid size. And now size 5s are getting tight for him by the end of summer. And during this, he would go times in the summer just not eating or being picky about what he ate. And my wife is sitting there going, my wife's Chinese, and for them, it's almost like the same thing as Southerners. If you don't eat enough, they're concerned about you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So my wife literally will sit there and go, do you think our kids are malnutritious? I'm like, no, look at them. My daughter has a double chin. Samuel has enough energy that anybody would be excited to have that much energy to have for anything.
Right.
So I mean, if you wasn't eating enough, he wouldn't have that energy.
Right.
Like a big thing that we also worry about was the type of foods they were eating. And my boss for my full-time job pointed out about food coloring. And it's something I never even thought about until I started looking into it after he said it. And we've started eliminating a lot of food coloring things.
Yeah,
Mind you, it's
red is big.
Yeah.
Red dye is like there's forums all about it. My wife reads about it. It's super weird, but that stuff's real. It's weird.
Oh yeah, like I said, I never even thought about it.
Yeah.
And till my boss said it, I'm thinking, because don't get me wrong, I'm like I was telling you, I've said enough conspiracy theories that they call it that when I hear something, I'm sitting there going, okay, is this real? Is this a conspiracy theory, or is it something in the middle?
Anti-government conspiracy theory. Red dye isn't going to make your kid nuts. Yeah, it actually does.
Yeah. So like we dumped out the fruit juice, the Hawaiian fruit punch stuff because they had the dye in it.
Yep.
We've eliminated a lot of the candies, and mind you, we still have some candies and some treats for them, but because we're not perfect and we have no intention to be perfect, but we need an excuse to say, hey, you're screwed up because of this. It's not us. You ate some red candy.
Right. But, I mean, candy's candy anyways. I mean, kids deserve a little bit of candy.
Yeah, it's fine. Absolutely. So it's like, but I know, like, what was it? We went to a restaurant on Sunday. So we just found a church that we like. It's real close to our home, and then it's real close to an Italian restaurant that we like. So we kind of like, it's almost like a line from the church to the Italian restaurant to our house, almost like a straight shot between them. So we stopped at the Italian restaurant, and my son was just digging into the spaghetti there. So last night we have homemade spaghetti, and it's not dark red, it's a little orange because we take a tomato base and then we make our sauce off of that. Right. And he just looks at it and goes, I can't eat this. It has sauce on it. I'm like, well, you ate what we bought for you. You devoured it on Sunday. He's like, no, that wasn't this. I'm like, it's the same thing. So, I mean, oh yeah. And it's like that whole thing where it kills me. I'll do meatballs. So I'll make meatballs from scratch, et cetera, et cetera. He'll devour, I'll have 30 of them made, and him and his sister will just leave me with 10. And like, I'll pull up and reheat them, and they're like, no, these are bad. These are no good. I'm like, they're from yesterday. Eat them. Yeah. Trust me. A lot of times as a parent, you try to make sure you don't say anything inappropriate because I called somebody a dumb idiot, and my son repeated it today after I said it, and I'm like, just don't say that around other people.
Yeah, I do that all the time too.
So I really do try to watch what I say because he's at that stage of, he'll repeat anything that he thinks that he knows, because they can pick up, tell me, do you get the feeling like sometimes your daughter just doesn't eat certain foods because is it because she thinks she doesn't like it, or she's just trying to mess with you?
Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of times she doesn't eat just to try to like test the waters, just to see what she can get away with. So like for me, I'm a little stricter than my wife. My wife will give in, you know what I mean? And I've been getting pretty upset with my wife about that the last like month or so. I keep telling her, you've got to stop giving in to her. So what she'll do is, like, regardless of what we make, we'll even be like, hey, what do you want to eat? And she'll be like, pizza. I'm like, okay, do you want to make pizza or do you want to order pizza? Order. And we're like, okay, cool. We'll go, order pizza. We rarely go order pizza, but we'll go order pizza. So the pizza will come, And when it comes, we start, you get a slice, you get a slice, whatever. And she'll just throw her head back and scream, I don't want this. I don't want this. It's so ugly and so dumb and gross. It's disgusting. But you said you wanted pizza and you wanted us to order. I don't want this. And she'll scream and throw a fit. She'll go run in the other room, and we'll just be like, I'm just sitting there like, eating my pizza,
Right.
I'm eating my pizza and drinking my drink. I'm gonna get on with it, And in my mind, and this is something my wife's mom has told my wife. I've told my wife, my grandparents and my dad, and I don't talk to my mom, but basically all of the adults and elderly adults above our other generation have all told my wife, including myself. And we have all said, she don't want to eat. Okay, don't let her eat, or let her not eat. Just say, cool, have at it. Go to your room. I guess it's bedtime. You know what I'm saying? And if she comes in later asking for food, just give her back her plate and say, here you go. Here's your pizza, or here's your dinner from earlier. And she throws a fit. Okay, back in your room. Let her starve. That night she can starve until she'll figure it out. She'll eventually go, oh, I want to eat. You know what I mean? But my wife will be like, all right, if you just take 2 bites, I'll make you some oatmeal, or I'll get you this or that. Just take 2 bites. I'm like, no.
Yeah, my wife and I have gotten into that argument.
Yeah. That's what she wants you to do. She wants to eat. She wants to test the waters to see what she can get away with and get you to do what she wants you to do eventually. Right. So just ignore her. Say if she don't want to eat, she can go to her room. And then if she wants to eat later, you give her her meal back from earlier. And if she throws a fit about that, say, well, go back to your room. Sorry about your luck. Right. And she refuses. And she's getting better at it, though. I think she's starting to listen to me a little bit more. She's starting to realize you can't keep giving in.
Right. Well, luckily for me, like my son at least has gotten to the point where he doesn't normally run off in a fit. So I'm at least good there. But I think at this age, the kids are trying to deal with a lot of emotional, trying to figure out their emotion.
Right. I mean, they're learning, testing waters, figuring this out, figuring it out, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, there's a whole thing about it. And, that's probably a conversation later. But I know, like, for my son, like, a perfect example, last night and right after I got him to bed, I was thinking about how this is going to be something that would be perfect for this discussion because, like I said, last night I made spaghetti and then added homemade spaghetti sauce on it. Right. And we were...
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah. So the whole gross, no. And he'll eat pasta bare. Like just pasta with a little olive oil and some seasoning on it, and he'll eat that. And so will my daughter. My daughter will eat it with sauce, without sauce, with whatever. But like last night, he was throwing such a fit about it and he wasn't throwing a fit, but he was arguing about it. And we let him watch a little bit of TV while they have dinner. And part of the reasoning is I can say, okay, eat your food or the TV goes away. Yeah. So, and after quite a bit of time, I'm sitting there going, okay, either eat your food or you're losing your TV. Yeah. And I took away the TV and I said, if you want your TV back, eat your food. Yeah. Well, then he threw a fit and I said, fine, no more TV at all this week. Right. Done. I said, I took him and his sisters, they both lost their TV. It's if one of them loses it, they both lose it because my thinking is simply if his sister has the TV while she eats, all he's going to do is either listen to it or come over and try to watch her TV while she watches it. Yeah, and with her being a year and a half old, he's going to dictate the shows that she watches if he's staying there. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. Yeah. So the whole thing is just getting that figured out and getting everything set. But yeah, I took that TV away and I'm like, no, this is not going to happen. He threw a fit and didn't eat. And it was basically, I let him go all the way up until a little bit before bed. And I gave him a little bit of dry cereal because I know if he wakes up hungry,
Yeah, he's gonna be
I'm
angry.
gonna be the one getting up with him. So
Yeah.
the question is how much punishment? I didn't give him a whole lot. I just gave him enough to get him through
Yeah.
the night. And I'm
Right.
like, okay. And he goes, I want this, I want that. I'm like, no, if you wanted it, you should have ate your dinner.
Yeah. So
This is
he's done.
just so you get through the night and you don't wake me up.
Right.
So not, I mean, it sounds rude, it sounds mean. And, you know, I grew up in a time frame where you weren't really babied. I remember my grandpa, who seems he was one of the grumpiest men in the world you'd meet, but had the weirdest sense of humor, kind of a scary laugh kind of guy, you know what I mean? Like he would laugh, and he, mind you,
Yeah.
older guy, he smoked cigars for most of his life, like the old Swisher Sweets, which I miss smoking those. That's the only thing about quitting smoking that I do miss is the night smoking a nice cigar. But the thing is like he would flat out tell. I remember at my grandma's house growing up, he would come in from the junkyard and just sit down to eat. And if I said I don't like this, he would look at me and go tough. And I'd be like, and he's like, she cooked this. We paid for the food. It's in front of you.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. Eat it. I'm
Eat
like,
it. Sorry,
but he's like, no, you do not have a choice. Eat your food. Shut up until it's done. And that's kind of what like my grandpa was. My mom, mind you, my mom and stepdad was much, much nicer than my grandpa. But there was plenty of times as a teenager, even if I'd say, because as teenagers, oh, peas, lima beans, oh.
Right. No, that's gross.
Oh, I love peas. Holy criminy.
Right. That's how I am.
Yeah, so it's funny the things that you just despise as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, as a teenager, you're devouring almost anything that you can get your hands on.
Yeah. And
I remember like the one thing everyone always growing up, liver and onions was supposed to be like the worst thing to eat, this and that.
Yeah.
So,
it was a Ren and Stimpy show episode, liver and onions.
But I remember like one of my closest buddies growing up, he came over and we all knew what it was because we've had it many times. But growing up, he never had it. And he sat there and just ate like thirds. He had thirds of it. And he's talking about how great it is. And we're like, this is liver and onions, right? No, I would know liver and onions. We're like, my mom pulled out the container from the trash and goes, see, liver. She goes,
liver and onions.
Yeah, she goes, and those obviously are onions, and that's my gravy on top of it. So it's liver and onions. And he's like, and I don't think he ever ate it again after that because we didn't have it too often. But it was just funny that and that's the one thing that even back then made me think as a teenager, if you don't know what it is and you try it and you like it and you keep eating it, once you know what it is, does that change the opinion? Because
change your perspective of what it is. Yeah.
Right, because you look at it like our kids.
Does. Yeah, it definitely does, because that's like a mental thing. Because there's a lot of stuff. Like for me, there's not much I won't eat. I just like eating food. It doesn't matter to me. My wife is extremely picky, and she isn't picky based on flavor or texture or anything like that. She's picky based on a mental, like a thought of it.
Right.
So if she thinks she don't like it or thinks it's weird or anything like that, she won't eat it. Like for me, my stepdad growing up was like how you said your grandpa was. Kind of something I've been telling my wife to do with our daughter. If it's on a plate, that's what you're eating. Sorry about your luck.
Mm-hmm.
Eat that. You don't get nothing else. That's it. So that's how I grew up. So eating some of the things. I mean, my stepdad, we weren't the richest. One of the things that we would catch is walking. They called them walking catfish. So there were these catfish. They're probably about a foot and a half long, and they were like mudfish basically. They would call them walking catfish. So whenever there was multiple bodies of water near each other down in South Florida, if one of them dried up during the summer, the mudfish would they almost would like waddle themselves out of whatever pond or whatever they were in and waddle themselves around on land until they got into another thing of water, another body of water.
Huh.
It's a weird thing, but my stepdad would keep a cooler in the back of his truck and go and pick them up and throw them in the cooler and bring them home and cut them up, and we'd cook them and eat them. Basically had catfish. My stepdad would go frog gigging all the time. We'd eat frog legs all the time. He liked hunting. He was very old fashioned Florida redneck type deal. So he do like turtle soup, deer hunting. We eat rabbit. I've eaten snake before. Also, all these like kind of weird, odd foods.
Right.
We've eaten, and to me, it's like, I've been overseas. I've been to Korea. I've been everywhere, all over the Middle East. And all those weird foods don't matter to me. They don't bother me. But her, like, she won't eat beef unless it's ground beef. She won't eat chicken unless it's chopped, like fully cooked to the point of being dry and chopped into multiple pieces. Like, she can't eat a baked chicken. Can't do it. Like chicken wings with the bone in, forget it. She will not eat it. It's a mental thing, and kids are very similar too. They're the same way. They don't want to know what it is.
Right. That's kind of like the thing that I was thinking about, because like I know I'll eat about anything unless I won't eat tripe, which is yeah. So tripe is for anyone that doesn't know, is the intestines of, I think, a cow. Yeah. So, which is very rubbery. It almost is like you feel the bumps, and it was just the texture of that got me, because it really didn't have a flavor. It was just like, like a thin piece of like the bumps on your tongue kind of thing. It was just like weird for me. But
it's poop. Poop. That's the line. If it's poop or deals with poop or has anything to do with poop, poop is the line. So, and cow intestines, it deals with poop. So, there's the line.
Well, you eat honey.
Oh, yeah, fair.
But that is good. But no, the one thing that for me that I can't really do is seafood. So anything from the ocean. I can eat freshwater fish. And I grew up right by Lake Erie in Northwest Ohio. So I can have freshwater. I can have walleye, love perch, beer battered perch. Oh, fantastic. But you give me seafood and it's like my throat closes up. It's like, nope, no, you don't need this poison. And
you mean you don't like raw oysters and you don't like to just slurp them down?
No, there's, I'll tell you offline the joke my stepdad told me when I was a teenager, because this is definitely not the appropriate place to make that joke. But basically, there is a comment that he made that I just used when somebody goes, well, why don't you like seafood? And I would make the same joke he made to me, and people would look at me and go, well, that's gross. I'm like, like, I'm a guy. What do you expect? So, and the fact is I've noticed my son, if I don't tell him what it is, I just put it down in front of him. It's something new.
Right. Yeah,
I either get two reactions. One, he'll act like he doesn't like it, and I'll say, I at least got him to start trying new foods. Take a bite of it. Don't say you're not going to eat it until you take a bite of it. Right. Then once he takes a bite of it, then he'll either eat it all up, or if my wife says, come on, just eat this, whatever it is, and he'll say, no, that's gross. That, whatever it is yucky. And I'm like sitting there going, sometimes you can say, just eat your noodles, and he'll eat them. Right. Eat your pasta, he'll eat them, because we do both Italian pastas, like the flour of the wheat pastas, and then we'll also do the rice noodles, Chinese, Asian noodles, because and he'll always eat noodles, rice, all of this without anything on it. Yeah. But of course, he also will eat a waffle or a pancake without any toppings on it as well. Yeah, but
my daughter does that too.
I make good pancakes, so I can't say anything about it. So I'll put flavorings and vanilla and all these things, chocolate chips. So but I mean, it's just kind of weird to me that how that's one thing you see as kids, and of growing up, even now as an adult, you still have that mindset of, ooh, this food, yucky, no.
Right.
Because growing up, I'd never really had seafood until I became an adult, you know?
Yeah.
And then when I tried it, it was like just the grossest thing in the world to me. Even lobster.
Really?
Now, lobster. Now, here's what I find funny about lobster is, do you know the history of lobster? Used to be, lobster was so abundant, it would wash up on the shores, and the poor people, the people that couldn't afford anything, would go out, pick up the lobster, and eat it. And there was even, I think there was like a strike or something saying, we will not eat lobster. So like people were so tired of eating lobster, it was considered poor person food.
Yeah.
And now you pay an arm and a leg to order it, this and that. And it's like, but yeah, it used to be poor people food, and people even, I get into weird history facts. So it's one of those things that people.
I like lobster. It's good.
But see, now I can eat some crabs, like crab cakes. I can have some crab cakes, or
cakes are good.
So crabs I can do. That's probably, and then like, what is it? There's tuna. That's the only other thing.
Yeah.
But
I can't eat a soft shell crab, like a blue crab. Blue crabs are delicious, but when they're soft shell blue crabs, that's just weird to me. I can't eat that. I don't like it. I've eaten it before, but I can't. I just can't eat the soft shell. That's strange. It's all crunchy and weird. But like Dungeness and king crab, oh man, you crack that leg and pull that big old like tube of meat out, dip it all, lather it all in butter, and it's so good.
Oh, understandable. So have you actually found anything that works for you getting your, because I know this was a discussion we had online prior about trying to figure out what works to get the kids to eat the food, and some people threw out some suggestions, and it's like every kid's different, obviously. So just because, like, for me, I can sit there and say, because we do the TV, I can sit there and say, no TV, eat your food. I'm gonna take this away. I've gotten, if you're not going to eat your food, you don't get to play with your toys, things like that. Which, I mean, to me, the mental thought behind that is there's reward and punishment. You're teaching them, hey, you have to do this if you want to do this.
Right.
And my wife's, like you said, oh, well, like for the longest time, I would tell her, I'm like, stop cooking 7 different dishes just to find the one that he'll eat.
Right.
I mean,
that's my wife too. Like she'll make like all 3 of us separate meals. She doesn't want to eat something fattening, so she'll make herself a salad while she'll make dinner, and I'll eat normal dinner. And then my daughter will throw a fit and won't want that, so she'll make her something else. I'm like you can't do that. Like you have got to give her, like you've got to force her to just eat what you give her and call it a day. You know what I mean?
Right.
But she, for some reason, she gives in.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why. Now, with the little research I did have time to do and look into before we did this, the weirdest thing I found is I searched healthy foods, good foods for children, young kids. Now, you would think meat would be one of the top things.
Right.
I went through 12 different lists that would list off things, and only 2 of them had chicken on it. None of them had beef, pork, anything like that on it. Now, I know there's a theory that it takes more energy in a way to eat meats because you have to cook it. Once you cook something, it loses some nutritional value, but there's a ton of benefits from meat. And what was it? The last food pyramid I saw, they put junk food as the top priority for kids and people to eat, like chips and cereals and processed things. I'm sitting there going, it's like, what kind of happened to the people that were saying, okay, you need to eat healthy foods? Like they put this processed food cereals, and not like healthy cereals, but like the cinnamon squares or the sugar smacks or things like that. And then they put vegetables at the bottom, or meats at the bottom, then vegetables, and then fruits. And
Yeah,
I'm sitting there
I've
going,
seen that thing before. It's
yeah, I'm
weird.
sitting there going, how do you justify that when,
It makes no sense.
why don't you just say, here's a bottle of red food color. Drink
Right.
this with every meal. I
Yeah.
mean, and like you
There's
said,
some
that's like we
there's some
discussed
weird
at the
stuff.
beginning.
Yeah.
So,
There's some weird stuff about food, like vegetables and stuff today
mhm.
compared to 60 years ago have like 40% less vitamins than they did before,
I
like
did
less
not hear that.
nutrients. Hmm.
Now I do know that if you saw the corn, like I've seen a thing where it shows like the difference of some of the vegetables and
Hmm.
stuff that we eat
Yeah.
now compared to what they naturally
Yeah.
were. Because
Yeah.
and this is the one reason like everyone worries about the genetic modification of
Hmm.
foods and things like that. If you want to be technical, we've been genetically modifying food from,
Oh yeah, hundreds of
I mean,
years.
oh yeah, I mean, ever since I forget the guy's name that discovered if you cross pollinate peas, you
Right.
make a new strain of peas. Because I remember
Yeah.
learning about that in science back in middle school
Right.
or something. But ever since that guy figured that out, people's been taking all sorts of stuff and trying to improve them.
Right.
The lower nutritional value of the vegetables and things like that, I did not hear.
Yeah.
So
They've been slowly like making them. Basically, what they're doing is making them
bigger.
like bigger and less dense. So the
Right.
density is becoming less. So ultimately speaking, there's more like, I guess, flesh to eat, but less nutrients in the flesh. Like a tomato, we
Hmm.
eat a tomato, say it has like 100 grams of vitamin C in it. Nowadays, it's like 60 grams, just because it's overall like gotten physically larger and less. The flesh on it's gotten less dense, and it's
Now,
just
now I wonder if that's like the major farms and things like that, or if it's also with the vegetables that you would grow in your garden. Because
yeah,
we have so many freaking tomatoes, and usually they're pretty solid and pretty fleshy, and they're not overly huge.
right,
But
yeah,
I mean, which one thing that we're trying to lean more towards, and we work with our neighbor with this as well, is we try to, we're going to be expanding our garden more and more as the
mhm,
kids grow so that we can have more area they can learn. But
yeah,
doing food at home, making your own stuff, growing your own things so that they can see, hey, this is where it comes from, I
right,
think is important. So I wonder if there's a big difference with supermarket quality
yeah.
versus garden quality.
I mean, I think so. I mean, a lot of that stuff is grown in like facilities, not even in ground. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Um, I've seen giant like hydroponic like tomato farms where it's nothing but just plastic tubes and tomato vines. So
Where they're
I
pumping
know they grow
nutrients
that
and all
stuff.
that in them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and uh, I know a lot of the grapes. Like, Have you ever had cotton candy grapes?
I've seen them. I've never tried them just because it
They're
seems weird.
they're delicious, unbelievably amazing. They're just fantastic, but they are literally a lab created. They're not created via GMO or anything like that. They obviously are GMO. There's
Right.
nothing that's what I mean. There's nothing that's not GMO'd. Um,
Right.
but it's the cotton candy flavor isn't created via GMOs. It's created by taking this grape and cross pollinating them, and it
Right.
creates this weird cotton flavor, this weird cotton candy flavor. And I guess the cross or whatever has never been revealed. Only this one place over in California knows about it, but it's really good. Like, that's crazy stuff that we can do that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting the things we can do. And like I said, even corn, it's corn and wheat or wheat, it's become like over time, we've figured out how to make it grow taller,
Yeah.
larger, all this stuff. Before, the wheat that they started with was the kind of wheat that you'd have in your yard that you'd sit there
Right.
and, I mean, I don't know how somebody figured, look at that weed, let's grow it and make a whole field of it.
Yeah. Turn it
But
into
yeah, I mean, whoever
yeah.
figured that out, amazing. But the fact is I think the original corn that I saw was so tiny that
Yeah.
and some of the original foods looks just disgusting and
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean
They're weird
disgusting and
looking.
yeah, disgusting, pitiful, all this. And
Yeah.
you sit there and go, that looks nothing like what
Hmm.
we grow now.
Yeah.
So, and like one thing I will say I've noticed is my son is more apt to eat stuff that he sees out of the garden.
Yeah.
And like my blueberry bush, I think I've had maybe 10 or blackberries. I've had 10
Mm.
blackberries off my blackberry bush
Right.
this past summer because every time I would go out, I would see my son just walking around with a handful. And I'm like, and he's like, it's like they're good when they're when they're sun baked and you pull them right off the vine.
Yeah.
And you know, he's pulled stuff off the tomato vines, and mind
Yeah.
you, he's not a huge tomato fan, but he's taking a bite of a tomato every now and then throws it down and goes, "Don't worry, the fox will eat it." I'm like, nice.
My daughter actually loves stuff right out, like fresh, right out of the garden too. She's the same way.
Right,
And it must be just a kid thing. They're intrigued by it. You know what I mean? And it looks correct. It's natural. You know what I mean?
right.
So like I grow peas, sugar snap peas, and
Hmm.
squash and stuff like every year. And she'll just go right out of the garden and just grab peas and just eat them right off the plant. You know, she'll grab the squash and just eat the squash. She just
Right.
loves it. This is my first year growing tomatoes, so I'm still waiting for some to grow. Um, the vine that I have, the tomato vine, is actually grew on accident from a tomato from my fridge. I was using it as compost, and it grew
Right.
like a plant, and I was like, keep it going, and I kept it going, and it just so happened to be a big old tomato plant, and it hasn't grown anything yet. I'm hoping next year. I'm hoping it's skipping a season because it's a, I mean,
Right.
it's a hybrid tomato from a supermarket.
Right.
So hopefully it grows something next year. But she would eat tomatoes like apples. She would hold
Hmm.
a tomato and she would just sit there and eat them. So
Right.
she likes veggies and stuff, and especially out of the garden. Uh, that's one thing that we found is very important with our family and making the kid eat very healthy as often as physically possible. Obviously, we're going to give our kid chocolate and candy. It's a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, a lot of the things we notice, like intellectual problems and talking and like stuff where they can't focus and can't pay attention. Like a lot of our friends with their kids, that's how they are. You know what I mean? But they like, we had a friend that would literally give her kid lollipops, like literal lollipops all day long, and would plop them in front of the TV and go do whatever she wanted to do all day long. And then when it
Right.
was lunchtime, she'd give them like Cheetos, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that was like it. Like, I mean, but he was like overweight, he was chubby, he still had speech problems. He didn't have like a very good intellect, you know what I mean? It wasn't like able to put this with this and understand that, you
Right.
know. So we noticed all these things in our kid from the very early age. We refused TV for the first 2 years of her life, so no zero TV, and then we made sure she ate vegetables and a very healthy diet like milk. A lot of she drinks milk still to this day, so she gets a lot of stuff.
Right.
We went out of our way to make sure she had a very healthy diet, not candy, and we also taught her to eat vegetables raw. Like most kids hate broccoli. She loves broccoli. She'll eat broccoli just right out of the fridge. You know what I mean? She loves lima beans. She likes, peas and squash and all that stuff. And
Right.
tomatoes, she'll eat anything. But most kids won't. Most kids, even kids at her school, and she goes to a very Christian private school.
Right.
Most kids are like, "No, I want cupcakes," and she's like, "Can I have a tomato, or can I have some peas? Do you have any peas?"
See,
So,
I would love if my son was that way. I'll admit we used because my wife wanted to learn Chinese, so we
mhm.
let him watch Chinese cartoons
Yeah,
when he was a baby and growing up and this and that. So he had the exposure, but like one thing is my son had speech delay. So
right.
he but it's the funny thing is now that he's talking this and that, and he's been talking for a while now, but
Mhm.
he has the habit of like he he'll have the habit of, if he finds you interesting, he'll talk and interact with you. If he doesn't like you, doesn't find you interesting, whatever it is, he'll ignore you. You can talk to him and he'll just be like, oh, okay, look, I want to go play with that. And just get up and, yeah. And, he's this new church that we found, the pastor there, he ended up telling me that he homeschooled his kids as well. And he went through and was telling me all these different things. And he ended up suggesting a book that he said that one is the things that he found was, one, reading this book. It was something about, I'm trying to remember the name of it. 8 Great Smarts. So, and he said it teaches you the different ways that kids learn this and that. And the one thing that I was thinking about after he mentioned that, because like I said, my son had this speech delay, but because I wanted to make sure that they wouldn't have a problem, because my son likes to get up. He's not a sit in the chair, focus like a lot of the kindergartners now. He's more, let me get up and move. And here's the thing is, like the teacher even said, oh yeah, he was walking around, he was doing this. I'm like, was he good? He's like, well, yeah. So later on, you would think kid getting up, walking around, doing other stuff, they're not paying attention. Right. I asked him what he learned, and later in the night, hours and hours later, I'm like, so what did you learn in Sunday school? And he went through and told me quite a bit of things, and told me, oh, you have to walk the right path. Right. The crooked path is for evil. All so this.
He's paying attention. He's just moving.
Yeah, and yeah, and part of it is when he does talk, he'll say things that most kids his age don't seem to say, because we're used to hearing him say all these different things using these bigger words. Right. And most adults will be like, I don't think I've heard a kid his age say something like that. So, but part of the concern that we had after everything is we're sitting there going, okay, what are the several things that could have caused these? And like, whatever your opinion of the vaccinations are, we decided like the COVID vaccination, we're completely against. He was fully vaccinated when we started reading about the effects that vaccinations had. He never had the COVID vaccination because even before they were saying, the government was coming forth saying about all these problems, we were reading about all these different things that were considered conspiracy theories. And like my wife and I wanted to have another kid, so we decided we weren't doing the vaccination because there's a report of the people getting vaccinated was having a high miscarriage, all this. But part of it is we looked and we saw that there was a lot of issues found through processed foods. And I know this was a long way of getting to this point, but after doing all this research, finding that processed foods, the different things that they throw in there, we know there's no way we're cutting out all the processed foods.
Yeah, it's impossible.
I mean, heck, we still do the pizza from a box. I mean, no matter what you're doing, something's processed. If you're doing ketchup,
you could do it, but it would be like you would have to be like homesteading with your own like garden and farm.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it would be very, very difficult.
Oh yeah, it's you have to and I've heard of people doing it, and their whole life is around work, homesteading, and sleep. And it's like okay, well, you have to make a choice, which I understand. Do that, but like we don't eat fast food. That's one thing that we've basically stayed away from. And I'm to the point now. When I was in my 20s and poor and all this, I lived off of Wendy's 99-cent menu, which I was told they no longer even have the 99-cent menu. Yeah. I'll tell you what, for $5, I ate like a king.
Right. Yeah, I used to do the same thing, like the McDonald's dollar menu and the Wendy's 99 menu. I used to eat ramen by the box.
I can't say anything. My wife still eats ramen. But I still eat ramen.
It's delicious, but I just don't eat it as like a everyday meal.
Yeah, but the one thing is she doesn't put the flavor packets in. Yeah. Because those have a ton of salt, sodium and such in them.
Right.
So which to me, that's the actual tasty part of it.
Yeah, that's the good part.
Yeah, but she does just the noodles and then puts her own vegetables and all this with it. So she does it how she says the Asians are supposed to. And mind you, my wife and I will say things that are culturally inappropriate between Asians and whites and all this. And so if I say something, don't think that I'm being whatever. It's we make jokes just like right now my son's horrible at math and we make a joke about him being a bad Chinese because he doesn't do math.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, just simple jokes like that. But we found that the processed foods tend to be a big deal between the process. So basically, from all the research we've done, and like I said, all up to this point, even after my boss told me about the food coloring, the big things that I discovered to try to keep away from is certain vaccinations. Not all vaccinations are bad. I'll say that right up front. All vaccinations are not bad, but there are still some vaccinations, and I've gone through and read the side effects and this and that. And one of the problems is a lot of these vaccinations, the study of how they interact with people being mixed all together is being done as they're giving them to the kids. Kind of like what they did with the COVID vaccination. Let's test it out on the people and see how it works. So the big thing is after that, one thing that we found is the food coloring, which, like I said, as soon as we discovered that, we just dumped a lot of stuff. But then it's processed foods. Processed foods had a huge impact on the kids' mental abilities, their physical activities, and we just started cutting out the food coloring. But even with how we do stuff, people has even told us that our kids seem to be more active, more energetic, a little sharper at certain things than a lot of the other kids because, like you said, we give our kid TV time or screen time as they call it now. Yeah. Again, his screen time is stuff that, like, I chose exactly what stuff they can watch for age group, like what games they can play, all these things. Yeah. So it's not like he's just going on YouTube itself and
watching
scrolling. Yeah, I mean,
when we stick to educational when it comes to TV for the most part. Obviously, we still watch Bluey. It's awesome. So, but
right. I mean, like I'll admit, like my son will watch Nature Cat and Wildcrats, and mind you, they'll sit there and talk about the climate change, which climate change is happening, but the effects of, you know what? Instead of getting into that topic, because that's I think that's a different show and probably a couple different episodes, but generally the fact is that they do talk about nature and education, and I believe you have to do everything in a combination of discipline, proper foods, and education on anything to be able to make sure that it's a balance to be able to give your kid the best that they can do. And
that's something we kind of purposely strive as well. You know, because like you said, we notice those things. You know, so we do the same. No processed foods, well, to an extent, you know, obviously. Wheat is actually oddly very similar. A lot of people don't realize, but the wheat these days is a lot like I think we said earlier, wheat is different these days than it was years ago.
All right.
So wheat is actually a big problem. So you can't get rid of it, but similar to the red dye, it causes, overweight issues. It causes health issues in kids. It causes mental focus issues. So there's quite a bit of stuff. So we just minimize wheat and stuff as best as possible. She still eats. She's not like a gluten-free baby or nothing.
Right.
But we don't let her eat like tons of wheat like crazy. But yeah, we stay with processed wheat, red dyes, stuff like that. We try to eat vegetables, lower the sodium content. And I mean, she watches TV and stuff, but we minimize what she watches and how much she watches. And overall, I mean, she still has her behavioral issues, but she's 5, almost 5.
Right.
So
almost every kid does at 5. I mean,
Right.
be honest
She's
with you,
not.
while we're talking, I even hear my son throwing a fit with the nanny, and he's probably upset because he has to wait to go out on
Mhm.
what he calls his field trip. So,
Right.
it's every kid has a fit.
Yeah.
Every kid has his
My
behavioral
my
issues.
daughter isn't still going when she talks. She
Right.
actually says the word
Oh yeah.
clear.
Now, how many? So it sounds like you know whole lot more parents than I do because I'm very antisocial when it comes to, which it's funny. My wife finds it hilarious that I'm the antisocial one because I
Mhm.
do enjoy like being around my neighbor, talking with him, having some drinks, or
Yeah.
being around old friends. But when it comes to actually going out and trying to make new friends, I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to keep those people up. I just want to put a big fence around my yard. I just put up a stay off my property sign.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it says no soliciting. And I love this sign. It has no soliciting, and it goes through this whole list because I saw years and
What
years.
soliciting is.
What's that?
Like no soliciting, and it tells them what no soliciting is.
Oh no, it goes through and says something along the lines of, here's the sign. So it says no soliciting. We don't talk to strangers. We know who we're voting for. We love Jesus. We have kids, so we don't have any money. Unless you're Girl Scouts or delivering a package, no excuses, no exceptions. And I mean, I saw that years ago when I was actually doing door-to-door sales right out of
Yeah.
high school, which that was the worst thing in the world. But I saw that sign and I was about to turn around when the owner came out of the door and I talked to him and I told him, like, anybody that takes the time to find that kind of sign, I'm not going to bother the house just because it's funny. So I ended up eventually getting one for my own house.
Nice.
But I mean, it's one of those things that I'm horrible about being around people, and I'm happy being a hermit in my little hole in the ground or my office, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I mean, as you can see, no one else is going to see it. The cat's laying at window level, which is ground level of
Yeah.
our property. So
Go ahead.
yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
I'm halfway in the ground, I guess you could say, which is not something most people want to be. But
That's kind of me. I'm the same with the kind of hermity stuff. I don't completely hermit, but if it were up to me, I mean, I'd have 500 acres in Kentucky and I'd never see a human ever again. But my wife has to live by the beach, and
eh,
she's not so hermity. She's a little bit, but I mean, she like forces me to be friends with other people, and our daughter has to have friends. So so we kind of connect with other parents and stuff like that. And
right.
it's
Well,
annoying, but got to do it for the kid.
oh yeah, and see that's the thing is like my son doesn't have a whole lot of friends. In fact,
Mhm.
he changes friends constantly because he's gone through a lot of changes, a lot
Yeah.
of daycares closed on him, all this stuff. So, but like, and he enjoys being around other little kids once he gets around them. But I don't. I think the last actual friends he has was probably almost a year ago or something like that.
Mhm.
But and he does go play with other kids. But from your experience, so you sound like you've obviously been around other parents that have kids
Yeah.
close to your daughter's
Mhm.
age, and you've seen their eating habits and such. Have you
Yeah.
seen the big difference between speech and behavioral
Oh yeah.
with the type of foods? Now, do you think this is just my theory? So, I think the type of foods have a part to play with it, but I also wonder if it's also a bit of the attitude that the parent has towards the food,
Mhm.
and they kind of take that attitude towards the educational or the way of raising their kid.
Mhm.
So if they're just doing, and I'm not saying like
Yeah.
for us, we'll do pizza, we'll do corn dogs. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's not an everyday thing. Most everything we cook is from scratch and what so have you, except for corn dogs and pizza from a box. But
Right.
do you think the parents had just everyday corn dogs, pizza, macaroni, cheese, and that's basically the whole kid's diet because it's the easiest thing? Or do you think that the attitude along with the food is to play with it, or do you think it's mostly the food?
It's definitely both. Like we have one friend. I mean, they're super nice people, but I don't know that when it comes to like dinner times and stuff, their work schedule is very erratic. It's a lot different like than ours. You know, where mine is Monday through Friday, this time to this time. My wife doesn't work, so she spends all day with the kids, stuff like that, cooking, cleaning, so on and so forth. So with them, they both work. One works during the day, one works in the evening time, and afternoon. So it's erratic all over the place. So their very common dinner, they would. I mean, we get told this all the time of them. They can of chicken noodle soup, microwave, here you go, and throw her in front of the TV, and then they go do whatever they got to do. So I mean, laundry or whatever they want to do, or they go watch TV or whatever. So to them, or to that kid, eating and sitting down and having dinner with the family or anything like that, or just eating your entire meal is very like she doesn't do it, So whenever the kid comes over to our house, like for a lot, like we've sat down with dinner a couple times and she's joined. We've sat down for lunch a couple times and she's joined, even like snack time. My daughter will go to the table, sit there. When she gets a snack or gets lunch, for the most part, she will eat it all. You know what I mean? Or she'll eat the majority of it until she's full, and then she'll throw. She won't eat the rest. Minus the bad attitude times. And mind you, all of these bad attitude times aren't literally every single day.
Right.
Her friend will like she'll go out of her way, like, hey, so and so forth. I'm not gonna say her name. So and so forth. What do you want for a snack? You want a bowl of chips? You want some broccoli and ranch dip? What would you like for a snack? We have this, and she'll choose one of them. We'll make it for her. And we'll put it in front of her to eat, and we'll get her. What do you want to drink? You want we have this with this with this. She'll choose this or whatever. Say she'll choose like apple juice or whatever.
Right.
So we'll get her a cup of apple juice, and we'll get her, say for lunch, we'll get her a cup of apple juice and like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and like some carrots for dipping, and then maybe like something else, like a small thing of chips. That's what she asked for. That's what we are willing to give her. So we gave her that for lunch. She'll take a bite out of the sandwich and a sip out of the juice, and she's up in front of the TV. And we're like, no, we go over there and turn the TV off. Oh, but my mom. Unfortunately, you're not in your mom's house.
Right.
You asked for that food, if you didn't want it, you sit there and you eat it. I'm sorry. My wife has gotten mad at me a couple times because she's like, that's not your kid. You can't do that. I'm like,
they're in my house.
I'm not scolding her.
Right.
Yes, I'm not scolding her, yelling at her. I'm just saying, hey, you want that food, you sit down and eat it. TV is off until it's done. Sorry about your luck. That's just how it goes. In this house, this is how it's done. And we notice that's their attitude. We also notice kind of some of the things she chooses when she's over at our house. Like if we give her options, she'll choose the more processed, more candy, not so good foods. And I mean, whatever, it's not our kid, so we're not going to go out of our way to force her to do really anything. We'll give her a couple of choices. It is what it is. But yeah, definitely the attitude. I think to them, meals and eating is very like nonchalant. It's very just whatever. If you want to eat, eat. If you don't want to eat, don't eat. They just kind of throw the food there or whatever.
Right.
So to their kid, it's very similar. I mean, whatever. It's meals or food is just meh. You just eat to eat, and it doesn't matter as long as it's good.
Right.
So our daughter knows, she needs to eat her vegetables. She needs to eat this. She needs to eat this. She knows. She's eating vegetables like raw, and not just. I'm not talking just carrots and tomatoes. I'm talking carrots, tomatoes, broccoli, squash, cucumbers, everything under the sun. Ever since she was like 1 and raw.
Right.
We give her peas, I mean, everything, onions, whatever, raw, completely raw. She loves it all. She'll eat it all like crazy. So this
Well,
kid won't touch it.
you're definitely outdoing me on the vegetables. So that there,
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
I can get my son to eat some vegetables depending on the day and his whim, and if I maybe put a little peanut butter or honey on it. So we're big about using honey at times and things like that. But I mean, yeah, it's.
My daughter hates onions now. She didn't used to, but she used. I mean, we've given her onions since she was little, like raw and everything, cooked raw, whatever. She don't like onions today. She'll like, ew, onions.
Yeah, my son now, if it's green, it's green. He's not. And you see, like, he still likes beans. If I give him different beans and things like that, he loves beans. So those are big things. Like, in fact, I'll probably make some meatballs tonight with some beans on the side, and I don't know. I'll figure out the third option. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of that whole thing of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think to me, it's just it's like parent modeling. You know what I mean? Right. This is how they act. This is how they act to their kids. So this is how their kid acts. The same, similar to food and how you eat and what to do. You know, so they don't really portray a good model to the kid. So the kid acts accordingly. You know, we have a little bit different of a model, a different style. You know, I'm not saying we're better. It's just this is what we do.
Right.
So our kid eats differently. Our kid understands sitting at the table, where she like doesn't like sitting at the table and eating, they like to eat dinner with the TV on, and no, that's a big no in our house. TV is not on. You know what I mean? So it's just, to me, it's just parent modeling. It's just, if you want your kid to be a certain way, this is how you need to be. Your kid is going to do what you do. Kid's going to mimic you, model you. Right. Because it's similar to what they say too. Say not bad words. I'm going to say bad words. You do bad things, they're going to do bad things.
Yep. So, and I'd say we do. Actually, I don't only say it because I do have a theory of having them eat with TV or distractions is because I want them to learn to do stuff with distractions. Yeah. But it's also, okay, if this is too much of a distraction, you have to either get rid of this or you lose it, because if you can't do it with the distraction, you don't get this. Yeah.
But we've definitely done it plenty of times. Like we had, TV dinner nights,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not an off the table thing.
Right. I'm not saying that taking, to me, like I think I've even said this before, and I don't remember if it's been on this show or not, but if my wife would agree to it, I would get rid of all of our streaming services. I would get rid of all the TVs and just simply books, radio, audio, stuff that you can have playing on a speaker and move around where you don't have the TVs and all this, because
that's me and my wife for the first 2 years of my daughter's life. That's what we had to do. We had a TV, had no streaming services, and we never turned it. We had an old TV. It was still a flat screen, but it was just like an old Vizio, and we never turned it on. It literally, like, by the time we went to turn it on, we had to replace it because it didn't work anymore. We never turned it on. So it's weird to say, but you actually get to a point to where when you go to turn it on and watch TV, it's like there's nothing to watch. You know what I mean? You get bored of it, and so you almost got used to not having that. You know what I mean? You got used to having something else to do, or finding something to do, reading a book, doing this, or doing a chore, or whatever. So we don't watch that much TV anymore. We still watch TV, obviously. Right. Me personally, I like to sit around, watch some Cops, and get a little sweaty. That's just me. But
Right. Well, for me,
you can't not watch Cops. Cops is awesome.
Cops was fun. I haven't watched it in years, to be honest with you. I know for me, I'll get into the older shows and things like that. But Cops. But to me, it's just.
Why so sweaty, Cops?
I didn't want to go there about the sweaty in Cops and why you're sweaty watching Cops, but
you've never seen Step Brothers?
No.
Oh, it's on Step Brothers. He's like, you were playing with my drum set, weren't you? No. Why are you so sweaty then? Oh, I was watching Cops. Such a dumb movie.
we've just cut out movies and TVs and all this, and like I'm hoping I can keep eliminating the TV from the kids as they get older. But part of it is right now it's meant to kind of teach them, hey, there'll always be distractions.
Yeah.
Like, so when you get into the real world, you have to deal with the distractions. And for me, I have to play an audiobook or music or something while I work, because I'm one of those people, when you hear a little noise, it's like, oh, squirrel, you know? Yeah. So, but yeah, let's do this. I'll tell you what, we've been talking, I think, for almost an hour and a half or something like that. So how about we save, because I think we're starting to drift off into other topics as well now. So how about we save these for other episodes, and
all right. Yeah.
This way people still have something to look forward to instead of a long show.
You can talk about this stuff for hours.
Exactly. But we do now have Facebook page up too, right? So let's let people know where they can find everything about us real quickly. It's like I said, we have you and I both are on Truth Social. You can find us where we manage a group under Truth Social called Fatherhood Support. And then we're both on LinkedIn. You can find our page on Facebook and on Twitter as well, if I'm not mistaken. So
we have a Twitter. We have a Facebook and Instagram. The Instagram's there.
Oh, okay.
The Instagram kind of goes hand in hand with the Facebook, so I kind of created both to go together. We got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Truth Social.
All right.
And our website, obviously.
Right.
So.
And then you should, hopefully by the time this episode comes out, you should also have your Pancake with Dad's website up as well, or at least move it. Cool. So I've actually, and I'm working on that for you as well. So I just saw you did the things I needed, so I'm moving forward with that. So people will be able to find you there. For me, if you're looking for anything on me, I also have my website, eamaynard.com, which I have my books on. And then I'm horrible about social medias and things like that. So, but you can contact me through the social medias, through emails. Where's best place for people to reach out to you?
For me, either like one of the pages, any one of my messengers on, Truth, Facebook. I'm on Truth the most, honestly.
Right.
You can message me on there. You can friend request me and connect with me. I pretty much will connect with anybody and accept friend requests from practically anybody. Just because I feel it's good to follow. People that follow me, I feel it's good to follow them back.
Right.
Especially lets us talk. I do have an email. We got pancakeswithyourdad@gmail.com. So that's a good way. You can send an email there, and hopefully when the website comes up, you can connect with me there.
So we'll keep things moving forward there.
It's just empty at the moment.
Well, as of today, the website's already been starting to be built. So I'll mind you, I'm excited because I get to try out new features of website building. So I'm using yours as a test. So
awesome.
I'm telling anybody, go to pancakeswithyourdad.com and let me know let Mr. Pancake know what you think about the site and what you want fixed, because it's going to help me as I build sites for myself and for the things we do, and I can hopefully implement them in callwithdads.com, which you can find our podcast there. You can find blog posts that we put there, contact ways, all this stuff. So, I mean, we're about everywhere that we can be that makes sense for us to be able to do that. So, we'll call this a day for everybody else, and we'll just say goodbye.
Yeah, all right. All right, man. Catch you later.
All right. Talk to you later.